Hey Critical Analysis, so this is going to be your third mastery skills video. Hopefully by now you're finding this easy to navigate, especially as I kind of guide you through the beginnings of each skill. So we're going to click into our labs, our mastery skill assessment. And I still have some of these open because not everyone has finished the previous ones. But my goal usually is as soon as I see everyone has finished a particular skill, I close it up. That way you have less to kind of click through. So if you have not already done so, please make sure that you complete the meaning from context, which went along with an earlier chapter. Identifying topics and main ideas, which went along with our previous chapter, chapter 3. And today's video is going to be going over identifying supporting details. So you want to please make sure that you are getting, these first two done first because they go along with topics we've already discussed. And so it just makes more sense to go in line. I do have a spreadsheet I keep track of as you complete the skill. And you have to have all of these done by the end of the semester. So although there's still time, it just makes a lot more sense and it's easier if you move along at the pace that we're going while we're talking about that particular subject in the course. All right, so we are going to be doing the Identifying Supporting Details post-test 1 today. This aligns with week 6, chapter 4. Chapter 4 is about identifying supporting details, so it's nice and in line with that. So I'm going to do post-test 1. I did have a couple questions that students wanted to know, did they have to do post-test 2? You do not have to. If you get a score that you're comfortable with on post-test 1, which hopefully most of the time if you go along with my videos, you will, at the very least, get a 70, 80%. Sometimes I leave a couple on your own, but if you're comfortable with that, you don't have to do post-tests too. Now, if you want a higher score or you just want extra practice, you can certainly take the second post-test, but it's not required. Remember, overall, you need an 80% or higher on all 10 skills. You don't need an 80% on every single skill. It has to be the average. So I'm going to go ahead and go into post-test 1 of identifying supporting details. Hopefully you have already listened to the lecture video, so the purpose of this part then is to be a review and practice of those concepts. If you have not listened to that lecture, some of this will not be as familiar, and so you may want to go listen to that video first. All right, so question 1 says, supporting details mainly function. So if you look at your choices, as discussed, a supporting detail can be a major or minor detail. And the purpose of that is to support, which is implied in its name, the main idea. So you first find the main idea, the topic, and then the main idea. Supporting details give examples, statistics, reasons, whatever it might be, that helps to go into more detail about the main idea. So if you look at this, right here's our best answer. Explain or prove the main idea. Now, I would almost be okay with this one to support a topic sentence because topic sentence and main ideas are very similar. So if you were doing this on your own and you happen to choose that one, I would go back and say that's okay because to me, that's very similar. So you're either supporting or explaining the main idea. That's the whole purpose of supporting details. Question 2, how do you identify supporting details? What are you doing to find those supporting details? Well, for me, you have to first know what the main idea is. So you have to know who or what the paragraph is about and what you're supposed to be learning. And then ask questions about that. Okay, well, what's going to tell me more about my main idea? Or how am I going to find out more details about my main idea? So to try to find your supporting details, you kind of formulate questions about your main idea. You think about your main idea, you think about the kind of information that would give you more facts, details, statistics, whatever it might be about your main idea. And that's what the supporting details are designed for. All right, question 3, which of the following is not a list of examples of different types of supporting details? So 3 of these are kinds of supporting details. One of them is just something completely different. So hopefully as you're looking at those, you can see that 3 choices are kinds or types of supporting details, but main ideas, topic sentences, and thesis statements, those are something completely different. They work with supporting details and they're found in paragraphs together, but those are not kinds of supporting details. Supporting details could give you reasons, examples, names, descriptions, whatever it might be that supports that main idea. Okay, question 4 says, look at this sentence right here, and how would we kind of figure out, turn into a question, how will we get the supporting details? So it says, many of the world's leading nations are delaying efforts to address the issue of global warming. So which one of these questions, if I take my sentence right here and turn it into a question, how would that help me find the major or the minor details of that particular sentence? So if I look, many of the world's leading nations are delaying efforts, I might ask, okay, well, why? Why are they delaying efforts? So that's a good question. It doesn't necessarily matter how many or how big or how do they contribute, because that's not implied in that sentence. What's implied is they are delaying efforts. So our question could be, why are they delaying efforts? And those are going to be the questions that the supporting details answer if I had like a full paragraph there. Okay, so same concept for number 5. It says, some scientists believe individual decisions can have an impact on global warming. So what way could I word this that's going to help me, if I had a paragraph, find the rest of my supporting details? So some scientists believe individual decisions can have an impact on global warming. So if I look at this, it doesn't really mention a debate, lifestyles, what causes global warming, okay, but it specifically mentions individual decisions. So a good question based off that to help me find, major or minor details would be, in what ways do individual decisions? So I take my main idea, I turn it into a question, and that would help me find my major or minor details. And that's the best kind of formula in terms of this sentence to turn into a question to find my major or minor details. So what these questions are doing, question 4 and question 5, is what you should do whenever you have a sentence. You find your main idea, and I talked about this in the chapter that went over main ideas. Turn your main idea into a question, and the rest of the paragraph should answer that question. So this is just kind of practice doing that, turning your main idea into a question so that the rest of the paragraph would answer that question, and the rest of the paragraph would be those supporting details. Okay, so let's look at question 6. Now, you can see question 6, you're going to see it carries over, same paragraph for question 7, question 8. So I am going to do, there we go, question 6 and maybe 7 with you. And there's only 9 questions in this one, so you only have a couple to do on your own. So let's look at question 6. The title is Lack of Access to Water for Irrigation and Drinking is a Growing Human Problem. It reads, as the human population has grown, fresh water has become scarce in many regions of the world. Additionally, contaminated, untreated drinking water is a major problem in developing countries where over 1 billion people drink it. Impure water spreads disease that kill millions of children each year. In both Africa and in India, where water contamination poses significant threats, people are starting to use sunlight to kill disease-causing organisms. They place water in plastic bottles and shake them to increase the oxygen levels in the water. Then they put the bottles in a sunny spot, allowing the combination of oxygen, warmth, and ultraviolet light to create free radicals that kill bacteria. With no technology other than plastic bottles, these people are generating safe drinking water. So normally when I'm reading, I would kind of just stop and just take stock. Okay, we know that we're talking about there's an issue of clean, fresh water in different parts of the world. And so people are being creative and using sunlight to try to kill all these organisms that create diseases. So I just do a quick check-in with myself. Okay, second paragraph. Currently, about 10% of the world's food is grown on cropland irrigated with water drawn from aquifers, which are natural underground reservoirs. Unfortunately, in many areas of the world, including China, India, Northern Africa, and the Midwestern United States, this groundwater is being mined for agriculture. That is, it is removed faster than it is replenished. Parts of the High Plains Aquifer, which extends from the Texas Panhandle north to South Dakota, have been depleted by about 50%. In India, 2/3 of crops are grown using underground water for irrigation, draining aquifers far faster than they are being replenished. One promising solution is to devise ways of trapping the heavy monsoon rains whose water usually pours into rivers and eventually into the ocean. People of a village in India have found that by digging a series of holding ponds, they can capture rainwater that would formerly run off. Their system allows the water to percolate down into the soil and helps replenish the underground water supplies. During the dry season, the people can then tap these supplies for irrigation. So that second paragraph is talking again like how an issue with water and how this is another issue. It's not necessarily the clean drinking water issue. It's that water is being mined far quicker than it's being able to be replaced. And so that's causing another issue. Okay, and I apologize. I noticed some of the spacing is off on here. So I'll have to look into seeing if I can get that taken care of just because it was a little tricky for me to read. All right, so this is echoing previous questions, like which question would best help you find all the major supporting details of this paragraph? So if we look at the topic, we know it's about like water issues. If we look at the title, lack of access to water for irrigation and drinking is a growing human problem. So we know that that's what this is going to talk about. Like, why is this a problem? So if we look at our choices here, using our title and knowing what the paragraphs are talking about, to me, the question, what has caused the growing human problem of lack of access to water for irrigation and drinking, that is a good question to ask based on the title. We have lack of access to water. Why or what has caused this problem? So that's a good question to pose based on the selection, based on the title. Okay, scrolling down to question 7. It wants to know most of the major details can be found in what? So if we look at our 2 paragraphs, lack of access to water for irrigation and drinking is a growing human problem. As I read, this is talking about, clean water, but then down here it starts talking about specifically the irrigation issue and lack of access to that. So to me, a lot of the major details are going to be in this second paragraph, which my choices are second paragraph are these 2, but it's not necessarily down here is more of like a details about a solution. So to me, the first half of paragraph 2 is kind of where they start describing some of the issues, like how did we get to this? Where did this problem come from? And it talks about the mining and the lack of replenishing. All right, so what you're going to do now is question 8. You have this same selection, but now it's going to ask you, what are the major details doing? So what are the major details showing based on what we've read here? And remember, we said that the second paragraph, the first part of it in particular, is where a lot of the major details can be found. Not all of the major details, but a lot of them can be found there, this first half of the second paragraph. So keeping that in mind, what are the major details describing? So look at your choices for that. And then question 9, we have a different selection. It's just 1 paragraph, and you can see that the paragraph is numbered. There are 7 sentences. It wants to know, where are the major details that support the idea expressed in the title of the passage? So you want to read the title of the passage and then look. It's either going to be 2 or 3 of the sentences. So you look at your choices and which 2 or 3 sentences, depending on which one you're leaning toward, give you more information about this. What might be helpful is turning that into a question and seeing which sentences answer that question. Okay, so hopefully that helps. The fact that we did the first 7 together and you are doing just 8 and 9 on your own, make sure you hit save and submit, and that will finish up the Identifying Supporting Details MSA. Until next time, bye.